Welcome to another episode of View from the Stands podcast, and we are back and at it again here on another Monday. I guess another victory Monday, maybe for the Bears, but we'll see. We'll dive into that a little bit later. I'm Sterling, and you can find me on Twitter at Sterling Noop. My co-host alongside me, as always,
is D, and you can find me on Twitter at Chicago Jones DW. Official Twitter page for the show is at VFTS Podcast. You can also find us individually at Sterling Noop at Chicago Jones DW on Twitter. Find us on Apple Music and SoundCloud, searching VFTS Podcast, and then last on YouTube, View from the Stands Podcast. And let's get it in, man.
All right, thank you, sir. So for today's show, we definitely have some WTF moments that I saw around the NFL that I wanted to touch on today. We'll also get into some of the discussions as far as games from this previous Thanksgiving week and weekend, as well as a couple other topics, and more specifically, getting into week 13 of the NFL. I don't know if you took a look at the slate of games, D, but we have a lot of good games this week. It's one of those things, like I was looking at it, looking at the games that we were going to talk about, and I was like, okay, cool. Okay, cool. I was like, okay, damn. Oh, damn. So there's 6 games this week of teams that on both sides of the field have winning records. And from the last few weeks that we've kind of been looking at the week by week games, I can't recall that many when we had that many teams that were all above 500, on both sides of the field with that. So we'll definitely get into that on today's show. Before that, though, as I said, we always love to start out with our Whiskey Tango Foxtrot moments. And I got to start in Washington with the Washington Commanders. They've been in the news for a while now with Daniel Snyder and some of the things that he has going on as an owner and, improper behavior within the organization. Throughout that, we've seen times where they honor Sean Taylor, who, as many know, Sean Taylor is a former NFL player who was murdered when he was at home during the season where he was injured. Someone broke into his house, ended up, if I remember correctly, cut him with a machete. And was it machete or a gun? My bad. Shot him with the gun, but the part where it went to an artery, and he bled out. So Sean Taylor died at a very young age, but even before that, he had already made an imprint on football, both at the University of Miami and at Washington. And, me and D, we've been knowing each other for more than 20 years. And Sean Taylor was one of those guys that when we were watching college football, from the U, and when he first came out and played at Washington, I was like,
he was that dude.
He was that dude. Like, if you're like, hey, I want a free safety or build me a safety, it was Sean Taylor and it was Ed Reed. Both guys from Miami. Sean was a lot more physical in his hitting presence than Ed was, but they both were
no diss to Ed, but bigger, faster,
yeah. So
Ed's a Hall of Famer,
right? And so I say that all to say I have a lot of respect for Sean Taylor and who he was as a football player. So much to say, when I saw Washington honor him, and I'm forgetting the exact time frame. I'll try and look it up here real quick as far as the number of years. I want to say it was 15 years since his passing. Do you recall that, D?
I mean,
if not, don't worry about it.
Not off the top of my head, but I mean, time flies. It's been a while. Well, I mean, you know what though? Yeah, it had to be because his daughter, which I'll get to as part of how I feel about it. His daughter looked like she high school, college age now, and she was a baby because he went home to protect his then girlfriend and infant daughter because there had been some home invasions in the area. I think he was injured, so he went home. I think the story he told Clinton Portis, had him just go home because he wasn't feeling right about it. And lo and behold, we know what happened next. But yeah, so his daughter was like young then. So yeah,
Yeah, and I pulled it up here. It was the 15th anniversary of his passing. So, there's been things where Washington, has done a decal, or they'll do, a logo on the field, from
folks
time
get
to
the
time.
dancing on it.
Right. Yeah. Mahomes' brother last year, I think that was. Um, and so it's the issue is that Washington, they continue to keep his memory alive to some extent. At the same time, they just do a piss poor job of handling it every single time. Like, and it's frustrating to me. And I can only imagine what it feels like for a Washington fan that is, in the thick of things as far as their team. Because I'm on the outside, just as a strictly Sean Taylor fan. I'm looking at this like, y'all, like I could come in there and do a better job in this in a week's time.
I'll take it even further. Obviously I listen to Levitard, and they're, him being from the U, they watched basically the majority of his career and were the ones who were behind him. Like, this is our guy, and he's blossoming into an all-pro type of dude. Like, and they were highly felt disrespected because, like you said, and what they said was it just looked like it was thrown together, and that it looked like it was rushed. And like with everything that's going on with Snyder, why don't you just not even put your hands on it? You already tried a couple times. Again, I was talking about with the decal, and I mean not the decal, but the outline on the field and his number, and got people all around it. It was just it's been all bad. The one thing I will say though is when a family member, and I was alluding to it earlier, his daughter is there. She's like, I really love the touch they did about putting the soccer cleats on them because that's the way my dad liked to. That was a little touch that reminds me of him. And I've seen people say that on the internet, and I feel the same way. Like, as much as we got to say about it, as long as the family don't got nothing bad to say about it, then that's cool. We all know they could have did a better job, but at the end of the day, if his little daughter, who basically he died protecting, is cool with it, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, and so let me just, I think that is good context because you're right. At the end of the day, it is about what the family feels is appropriate and what they're good with 100%. Just to kind of to piggyback on and kind of articulate what we saw over the weekend on Sunday as it related to the quote statue that they unveiled. It was notated as a Sean Taylor statue unveiling,
and
it wasn't a statue at all. It looks like a mannequin,
a department store mannequin with a helmet.
Right. It looks like a department store mannequin with a helmet on. So they put the helmet, the 21 jersey, the pants, the socks, and the cleats.
Now,
but
yeah, go ahead. I know
but
where
it
you're
doesn't
going.
It doesn't expand on that in terms of the touch that was Sean Taylor. Like, because again, I remember Sean Taylor as far as the tape, the tape that he would have on the visor. I mean, I'm sorry, the tape that he would have on the actual face mask, the tape that he had on his hands, where he wore tape on his hands and didn't wear gloves. So, like, they could have done so much more than just put a mannequin. And it's not even a mannequin like you would see when you go to the store. It's a wire mannequin where, like, you could see through, like, the arms. You could see from the front of the building to the back of the building with the arms. So it just doesn't have that right touch that you would expect, again, from a situation or atmosphere where you're continuing to build up his memory, which you should. If you're gonna do it right. Either just don't do it and just say do a little video montage and call it a day, or do it right.
One thing that they were saying was just that you've already tried to do it a couple of times. Like, just do it. If you're not gonna do it the right way, don't do it at all. And since you haven't done it the right way already, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't the first time you tried to honor him. And I mean, I've seen things wasn't it just this or last season where guys were like, we didn't even know, like former teammates, family, whatever.
Yeah,
We
they
didn't
were
even
doing something.
know
Yeah,
they were even doing something. So like you've already like kind of fumbled this per se.
yeah.
So
I want to say it was
just
that
leave
for
it
for
alone.
that item that they had last year. Like they started reaching out to folks like the week before, like, hey, can you come down? And it's just like it's it's just very sad because from a project manager standpoint, being a project manager, like your project is, hey, the task that you have is make sure that we honor Sean Taylor and doing a good job of that. And this is what you brought to the table. Like I said, put me in a situation I could do 10 times better in a week's worth of time, and probably wouldn't spend as much money as they did on this BS. So again, I can only imagine what Washington fans had to say. But going back to your point, if the family's happy about it, I'll keep my mouth shut, keep it moving. The other item that I wanted to touch on from a WTF moment is like really like how do you let that happen? So I don't know if you saw this, D, because we didn't talk about this, but the Cleveland Browns. If anybody noticed, their field looked a little off this Sunday. Like there was like circles in it. It was like, what's wrong with the field? Well, I guess what happened is somebody was driving around on, I guess, Monday morning or something like that last week, hops a fence, gets in a truck, and start doing donuts on the field in Cleveland, and they weren't able to repair the field enough to kind of get rid of it. So they played with donuts on the field. It's just like, really? And of course it would happen at Cleveland. You know, it's one of those things like you expect it to happen to one of those bad franchises or whatever. And it's Cleveland.
I was about to say, like, the WTF moments kind of have a theme here, which is like these teams, like, what's the saying in Forrest Gump? Stupid is as stupid does. Like, terrible is as terrible does. Like, it seems like these teams just like are always in the thick of something stupid. You know what I mean? And like continuing with the Browns, I did see the tire marks on the field. Continue with the Browns, another WTF moment, which we've been talking about a while, like that's gonna be, going through the media now, this week here. Your boy coming back, to the field. Let the outrage begin.
Yeah, like we brought it up a couple weeks ago with DeShaun Watson. I very much feel like the NFL is like, hey, he's done his time. We're moving on. Nothing to see here. And unless something else comes up from a questioning standpoint, as far as post interview questions or something coming up in terms of another, ordeal, I think the NFL is just going to try and move on for this. And at the same point, I personally, was not a fan of the discipline that they broke down. Wasn't a fan of the $230 million guarantee contract, nor the $45 million that he's getting this year. But at this point, it's like, it is what it is, I guess. And it's the nature of the NFL. It's like, hey, you could pass the ball.
Good to see that Jacoby Brissett did end on a high note. Like, I guess that's the one good that I can say came out of this whole Cleveland thing is that Jacoby Brissett's stock went up, and he probably helped out his career being not DeShaun Watson, and the last memory was him winning the game.
Yeah, it was good to see Jacoby get that W, especially with it against Tom Brady. Just the lore that is Tom Brady, even though that they're not kind of where they have been in years past with Tom Brady. But it was good to go ahead and see Jacoby get that. It was funny though today because I saw talking about the QB room. DeShaun's coming back and they're like, who's the backup? Dotson, I think. They're like, bye. We need to make room. See you later. Thanks for your 11, 12 weeks.
Thank you for your service.
your time here is done. We're moving on. Thank you. Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out this weekend because they're going to talk about it. They have to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think after this week, it's going to be back to football.
We've been having a running joke in the DMs. I'm like, let the 2-week outrage begin. Like the clock started today. You saw the tweets. I think it was Andrew. You know what I mean? The people trying to drum up the outrage, and it's gonna like, oh, okay, we've kind of dealt with it already. Like that's kind
right.
Of, yeah, that seems to be the sentiment, pretty much.
Well, and I think about it too. It's kind of like one of those things as far as like work's going to go on. Like if you look at, just myself from a job standpoint, if like I quit my job tomorrow, they're like, okay, sorry to see you go, but this train is going to continue to move. We'll get somebody else to do the same job, maybe not as good, maybe better, who knows? But the train's going to move, and that's kind of what's going on here. Like it or not, like they got games to play. The decision's been made. Like,
playoffs is coming, seeding is taking place, and that's what people are caring about.
Like I don't know what you want me to do now. Like decision's been made. NFLPA agreed on it.
Like speaking of the train, man, like usually on Thanksgiving we don't have usually the games on Thanksgiving are like background noise. Like it's just something to do while you're eating, fellowshipping with family, whatever. This Thanksgiving, bro, like the games were tip top. I watched every single game and was entertained, highly entertained.
Yeah, I will say the games were good. Now, I will admit, I was more on kind of the normal Thanksgiving flow of games, and what I mean by that was, my wife's family, they eat hella early. So
Like
11:30.
noonish. Oh my God, I can't stand
The game started at 11:30. Folks were coming over about 11, and we was probably in the thick of things. We probably didn't start getting eating until maybe 1, but it was still one of those
I
things
don't
where
even got
folks
the
are
time
coming
to
in.
take a walk with my cousins or nothing like that. Like we need walking
No,
time. We need time to go to
no.
the store real quick. You know what I'm saying?
No, my wife's family, they don't even eat breakfast. They're like, no, why eat breakfast? That's just gonna mess up my appetite for 2 hours later. No, I don't want
Are
to eat
they? They're
breakfast.
one of them. Why are you eating on Thanksgiving families? Like why are you eating
Yeah,
breakfast? Like because my body
yeah.
needs nourishment.
Like, no, we're just gonna eat in 30 minutes. Like, no, the hell, I'm not. I'm getting some eggs and bacon. It might be a little bit, but I'm eating some breakfast. Thank you.
Yeah.
So anyway,
And
the
black 30
Bills
minutes
Lions
ain't
game,
30 minutes.
right? The Bills Lions game was on, but it was more so background noise because folks were coming in, having conversations, greeting folks. But I, was able to see that, was able to see the ending part of it, as far as the back and forth there, with the Bills coming back to win it. The Giants Cowboys game was one that being here in Dallas was trying to be tuned into, but I will be honest, the itis was kicking in, and the dozing was happening. I was
Oh
expecting
yeah.
to wake up.
The Dallas Cowboys game got the Steph Curry for me too, buddy.
Yeah. I was fighting, and then I saw somebody was I saw a Twitter comment. And it's like I don't know if it's just me getting older or whatnot, but hell, that first plate had me on the couch fighting for my life trying to stay awake.
I didn't make it past my first play. Like, yeah, it was I
um,
didn't even finish it and I was out.
yeah, so the Giants Cowboys game, halftime it was a little questionable as far as the Cowboys, but then they were able to hang in there for the second half. And then the Patriots at Vikings game was another good game to end off the night. Where, like you said, that's not something that's to be expected. Where you have 3 Thanksgiving games, and in most cases, you
They
have three
get
Thanksgiving
boring.
games, but all of them are boring. Like not even one of
Yeah.
them is good. So that definitely was a good sign to see. Staying in regards to the games from the past week, there were 2 other games that I thought were interesting, and I think these are more so interesting just because of the time that we're starting to approach of the year, where you want to see those good teams play against each other because we're starting to get that point as far as seeing some playoff caliber football with some of these teams that are the good teams. So the Bengals beat the Titans. That was a good game. That was a little back and forth. Came down to the wire on that one. Both playoff contending teams, and the Bengals was a team that started out with the 2 losses and able to come back and do their thing here.
Just a note from that game. This is one of the reasons. I mean, there are other reasons why you do bet, obviously, but one of the reasons why you don't bet football is when you need that last leg of your parlay to be a Derrick Henry touchdown. And this man is
He
running.
fumbles.
I'm watching it, dog. Like
Fumbles,
I'm
bruh.
like, yeah, yeah.
He just fumbled it at like the 5.
I was so
Like, what
mad,
are you
bro.
doing? What are you
I
doing?
was hurt. That cost me.
Yeah, no, I would have been hurt at that point. You had one job, just get across the damn line. Yeah, I feel bad.
And on top of that, he's not one of those. Even though he's a bigger back, when he's in the open field, you're like he's gone.
Yeah,
Which is why I was celebrating the way I was. My hands were in the air already.
yeah, no, I feel you on that one. The other game that was one that I was tuned into yesterday was the Eagles and the Packers game. More so just to see the Packers get 8 losses. I was really disturbed in the game just because the Eagles were letting them hang around there, play with their food a little bit too much. But they finally got things together and went on to win the game. But of course, there's more coming out from the game than just the Eagles winning it. Of course, Aaron Rodgers, he can't go without the news being about him. And I want to stay on that for a second because Aaron Rodgers, he does this shit all the time where it's like, oh, everything's cool and dandy. And then you start losing, things start getting questionable. Like, oh, I've been really working, dealing with this thumb injury.
That
Oh,
that
I've
was
really
that
been
was the
dealing with
first
this.
thing I thought. That was the first.
It's like, dude, like you're only saying this shit right now.
He always gives himself an out to where he can be
right.
Well, it wasn't me. There was something else that was going on. I can't stand people like that.
It's like, bro, like
I can't
always.
Yeah.
Oh, like, he always does that.
There was a reason why. Like maybe you the reason.
Yeah, like want to throw something in there, like, oh, really had a broken thumb the last 5 weeks. Like, bro, come on with this stuff. Like nobody cares. You played the game, right? Okay, then. I don't want to hear the shit. So anyway,
and just one last thing too. Like I told you on Twitter, the Eagles had one job, so I know you were a little bit upset about how it happened. I was just, the goal in mind was for me to show up to their funeral.
Yeah.
I think the nail was put in the coffin last night.
Oh yeah, the nail was put in the coffin, and even with that said, it sparked more questions, if you will, for the Green Bay Packers. Which, as a Bears fan who feels like we have our future franchise quarterback, and things are, I think we're hitting rock bottom this year. Last year, this year is rock bottom. Things are going to go up from here. I really, truly believe that. Whereas you look at the Packers, and I think they're in that situation where they're trying to hold on to something from a fan perspective, but there's still that aspect of like, this shit could go really bad real quick. And what I mean by that is Andrew Brandt, who is a former, I want to say he was a former GM. He had some involvement with the Packers. I think former GM with the Packers.
Drafted Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. And so he was there doing the Brett Favre years, Aaron Rodgers years, and he mentioned on Twitter last night, before they started mentioning it on other social media, and even Tirico mentioned it during the game. He said it was almost 15 years to the day when Aaron Rodgers replaced Brett Favre in a night game, and the next year Aaron Rodgers ended up being the starter. And so, of course, it comes up. Aaron Rodgers gets injured with the oblique injury, and he leaves the game. Jordan Love comes back in. Jordan Love's been there for 3 years already. And question is, is history about to repeat itself again, where he's coming in to play? Now, the only big difference here, the huge difference, is Green Bay shelved out $250 million to Aaron Rodgers just this past offseason. So it's one of those things where if like they do want to try and move on from him, even if another team is taking on some of the cap hit.
Not yet, though. Like,
right. There's 50 million that's going to be like dead money no matter what. Even if they are able to do something and get them to another team, the Green Bay Packers are going to have to eat $40-50 million in that first year, which is probably not likely. So from that standpoint, it is interesting to me. I like it as far as the conversation, like, oh, what's happening? Everything's fine. Everything's fine. You're like, I don't know about that, because y'all are 4-8 with your MVP quarterback, and you don't have money next year. So I'm not sure what y'all doing.
I'm not going to be convinced that Jordan Love is the third coming for I guess the fourth if you count Bart Starr. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to Mike White Jordan Love for me. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't going to have me thinking just because he played against the damn Eagles in garbage time, when they don't give a damn, when they know, I was about to say Brett Favre, when they know Aaron Rodgers didn't wave the white flag on him. Oh, now he, out here making a couple passes against.
He really made one pass, and it wasn't even a great pass. It was a slant where you hit your receiver on your slant route. Your receiver took it 40, 50 yards, the rest of the difference. Like, you didn't do anything.
Against a defense that's already into next week, as far as mentally. Yeah. Like, it's what I mean by that is kind of, I know we're going to get to the next show, but it's kind of the same thing they got some people thinking about Mike White, you know what I mean, against the way he played. He led the league in passer rating this year. I mean, this week, against our defense. Like, already coming into the game was, and then on top of that, they let the Eddie Jackson. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that's the way I feel about Jordan Love. Is he gonna have to show me some more before I think that we're any kind of torch passing or baton passing going on.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But I do want to ask the question to take a step back. And that question is, are the Packers doing it right? And what I mean by that is, are they doing it right by drafting, a quarterback in round one and saying, "Hey, we're going to give you 3 years." So I'll just put that out there, get your thoughts on that, D, because if you think about it, I know they have a different situation because they have Hall of Fame quarterback after Hall of Fame quarterback. But if they are able to set up this path of have a Hall of Fame quarterback in Brett Favre, draft the first rounder, let him sit, and then do the same thing with Jordan Love, like I can't say that's
Brett
wrong.
Favre said too, like honestly speaking, all like that their system has been a quarterback with potential. He sit the first couple years, learn the game, and then you cut him loose. Brett Favre wasn't a starter in Atlanta either. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, perhaps maybe this will help him be better and more. See, we were talking about it as far as Justin, how, like, and Trevor Siemian, the difference when people thinking, oh, he passes better than Justin, it's just being in the league for a couple more years. So maybe Jordan Love will be serviceable enough for the Packers, once they get rid of Aaron Rodgers, because he's been sitting and doing the same thing Rodgers did, the same thing Favre did.
Yeah. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, in an ideal world, I think that is the right way to go. But we just don't ever see that happening because you never see a team draft a quarterback in the first round when they have their franchise quarterback. And essentially, Green Bay has done that twice now. And it's potentially looking like, it will be the smart move to go.
Or
but time will tell.
Or you never see a quarterback that's drafted high sit. It's almost like they almost get the same stigma as like a college senior in basketball now. You know what I mean? Like, why are you still there? Why are you still on the pitch? Why are you still in school? Like,
Like something's
it has
wrong
a negative connotation.
Yeah, something's wrong with you. Like it must be you because you're not doing enough to get on the field. But yeah, this was going to be interesting to play out, just because, looking at it, like, again, I feel like we got Justin Fields as our franchise quarterback, but hey, in 10 years down the road, I might be coming back like, hey, we need to go ahead and get that, first round draft pick. Even if we know the dude's not going to play for 2 years, let's set him up and get him ready to go. Because it's, different way of looking at it, but it could work.
There's no way I'm allowing my mind to think that far ahead of that, man. So I'm not gonna do it. You're not gonna ruin this moment for me right now.
Well, in that moment, I am saying that Justin is our quarterback for the next 10, 13 years, so we can afford it then. So in that case, hey, I'm good with that. So going on to more so games that we have coming up in this week's NFL Week 13. As I said, we have 6 games this week with both teams having winning records. Now, some of those games are going to be more enticing than other teams, but 6 games is still a lot here. So starting us off, Thursday Night Football, we have the Bills at the Patriots. I think this is a big one for the Bills. Like, they've looked a little not Super Bowl caliber the last couple of weeks, even though the talent is there. Divisional rival in the Patriots, I think you definitely got to give the Bills the advantage. At the same point, this isn't necessarily just it isn't the for sure victory that I think a lot of us may have saw at the beginning of the season. This one's more of like, all right, they're going to have to come out and play here for the Bills to get that W.
And this got the potential to be one of them games, just like it was last Thursday, to where look, the Patriots haven't been in this position in a while where they're, having to basically play spoiler, and try to back their way in the playoffs, but essentially like make sure that the Bills, get knocked down a peg. And then the Bills, like you said, not playing too well. Josh Allen with that injury. So these are going to be 2 teams in prime time that's like going to fight it out. I mean, especially in Division 2. Like, yeah, this might be entertaining as hell on Thursday.
The other thing too, I'm gonna put this out there. I'm gonna put it out there. The Patriots all wearing the throwback jerseys. I don't know. I'm just saying.
They wearing the '85 Super Bowl joints.
I think they were like them darker red with the old school helmet. So I'm being goofy on that one. I don't think it's gonna mean a damn, but at least it look clean on TV. Next game up. Again, not as maybe exciting in terms of names, but winning records here. New York Jets are going to the Minnesota Vikings. New York, of course, we'll get into a little bit more detail in the second segment, but they beat the Bears here this past week. Minnesota got the victory against New England at home. Minnesota, I think they need to have this victory just to keep things moving. And I see the Vikings getting this win, and I see it pretty easily because
especially after what we saw against the Jets, don't scare me no more.
Yeah,
I've been hearing about their defense, like on the periphery, watching all the games. Usually it's at 11 o'clock, just like us. So you ain't really got to watch them. I watched them yesterday. And Kirk Cousins, for whatever reason, is the reason is Justin Jefferson. having the season of his.
Yeah. So, I do expect Minnesota to win this one, and I do expect also the this honeymoon that has been Mike White yesterday is going to come back to reality.
We've been here before with him. He throws like 4 touchdowns.
Well, so the one thing that I'll mention, and it'll kind of transition to the next teams that we talk about. Mike White, he's got that Taylor Heineke effect, where like he's not really all that great, but for whatever reason, like the dudes in the locker room, they love him and love playing for him, and they get W's. It's like I don't know how we're quite doing it in those fun. The other team, as I said, Tyler Heineke, the Commanders, Ron Rivera was like, I'm not really sure. I can't put my finger at it, but the guys play better when he's there. He's getting
Tannehill's another guy like that too. Like for whatever reason, he just meshes with the teams he's on, and they like him and they play hard with him.
Yeah. So going back to the Jets Vikings game, I do expect Vikings to win that, White to come back to reality, which is going to be interesting to see what the Jets do at that point, especially with the benching of Wilson. They gonna have some turmoil potentially coming there if they can't figure out that quarterback position in the short term. And
real quick, is he out of those first five quarterbacks that was taken in Justin Fields draft? Is he the first one that's gonna not be with his team? Like he's trade bait at this point,
right? First 5 quarterbacks. Yes, he is. He's the one that would be out first because with Trey Lance, you're still gonna Field. Trey Lance is still going to get some time because of the injuries. Lawrence was first, and Zach went second.
Oh my! I was like, wait a minute, he number 2?
Yeah, he was the number 2 pick. Yeah, he was the number 2 pick. Trey went third, then Fields, and then Mac Jones.
MJ meme from The Last Dance.
Yeah, so Wilson could be the one that's out. But the thing about it too, going back to one of the conversations that we had earlier this year, it's like there's going to be a sucker GM and a sucker coach to make the move and say, yeah, we'll make him right over here. But I'm looking at him like, all right, I'll continue to go down this stupid is as stupid does in trying to with these rehash quarterbacks, and that shit don't work.
Man, I do remember vividly. The only thing about the draft process and Zach Wilson is him like a drill where he. You know what I'm talking about? He was like running this.
He ran out to the left,
and it was like
the ball.
Stock just went through the roof.
He threw the ball 200 yards. Right, he threw the ball 200 yards.
He was like, he can throw a football over the mountains. He going number
2. Right, right. He can throw a three lengths of football field. Doesn't matter that nobody's ever running that far, but he can do it. So this is the guy. But I had to make a joke because I remember on draft day when they were doing the pictures and whatnot, and the other players were throwing up hand symbols and not they just having fun, throwing up the UT or just throwing up the deuces or whatever, and Zach Wilson's in the background like trying to dive back into the bushes like he's Homer Simpson or something. Like, dude, you got to be able to make a connection with your teammates. Right, you got to make a connection with your teammates.
You got a teammate named Sauce. Like you need
right. You have to stop. We have to call you mayonnaise or something. Help them out, shit. So other games up to kind of speed through it here. We got the Commanders and at Giants. Again, not a high game in terms of name notoriety, but in that division, the NFC East, in which all 4 of those teams right now would make the playoffs. this game is going to be a big game to determine kind of that third and maybe final spot in that division.
And I got a pun for this game, especially with them little, with the joints that they're wearing now. This is the cap ball, like, cause who's for real and who's for real and who's cap? Like, are the Giants for real? Are the Commanders for real? Are either of these teams gonna really do something in the playoffs? I think both of them cap. Both of them cap to me.
I would agree with that. Next up is the Titans at Eagles. This is going to be a good game because of the running style of both teams. Of course, as you mentioned with Derrick Henry, we expect that running game to do its thing. Eagles, they just had 300-something yards yesterday. I think they probably have the more potent offense, and I wouldn't give them the edge to win. But that is going to be a good game between the Titans and the Eagles this weekend as well. That's
going to be some playoff football right there.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Two teams that's built for the playoffs too.
Yeah. It doesn't stop there. We got another matchup in the Dolphins and the 49ers. Again, you got the the 49ers defense, the way they run the ball and their physical style of play going up against the Dolphins who, they have.
This could be the Super Bowl. I'm not even
bullshit. You're not, because the 49ers are the team that they play and they know how to play well. They got good talent and they've been there to the Super Bowl in the past, and they showed us just last year that it doesn't matter what seed they are, they can make a run for it. So this is going to be a good game. Just seeing the matchups, I'm very excited about that game. And then the last game to bring up for this weekend slate of games is the Chiefs at Bengals. Another good game here with two top quarterbacks in Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. Hopefully, Jamar Chase will be back for the Bengals. We can see what he looks like coming back from his few weeks out.
And he comes back from
another good game.
He comes back from injury. This could be the AFC Championship.
Absolutely.
Like you said, this slate of games is tough. This looked like first round of the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of good games this weekend. So it should be a good weekend. Looking forward to it. My only concern is how these games are spread out, not having them all on one time as far as starting, so we can hopefully, get a chance to bouncing back from some of these games throughout the Sunday. So either way, should be a lot of good games this weekend, and definitely when we connect next week, should be able to have some thoughts as far as who's starting to separate themselves from the pack.
For sure, man. So on that note, we'll go ahead and end this NFL show this week. Stay tuned for our Bear show. If you're listening in consecutive order, we're gonna go ahead and get to the Bear show next. On behalf of Sterling Luke, I am Chicago Jones DW. Please listen to the show on Apple Music and on SoundCloud. Search VFTS Podcast, and then on YouTube, if you want to watch the show, search View from the Stands Podcast. And this is our view from the stands. Peace.